Well, hello and welcome to today's Confessions of a Global Changemaker show. I was like just wowed by this amazing woman's presence. I can't even get my words out today. Um, Having 4 dogs and 2 cats and traveling with these amazing friends of mine all over. I've got to know my canines very well, but not as well as this amazing lady who is sat in front of you today that you're either watching or listening to. Grace, welcome to today's show.
Honor is all mine. I'm so glad to be here, and especially I was just telling everybody I'm on a British show. That's so fancy, you know.
Well, welcome. This is your first international show, then, is it?
Yeah, I have clients from all over the world, but this is the first time me a show that's in the other side of the world. Yeah.
Oh, well, I'm delighted that it was our show that you were able to launch on. Grace, tell me, I've read some of your bio. For those of you that are watching or listening in, Grace's bio is also with the show notes. What was it what didn't you put into that bio? Like, what did you hold back on? What didn't make it to the final cut of that bio? What didn't you tell us that we can sneak in now?
Oh my, I try to squeeze so many things in the bio that I'm like, oh my God, that's probably too much. No one wants to read that. And I think a big part of it, that's most of my bio is really the part after I arrived in the United States, right? The life here and how I started business. I think part of a lot of things being omitted is like what happened before that. You know, I was born and raised in Beijing, China. I came here when I believe, I don't even remember now, about 22 years old. So, and came here is more of like a culture difference. And I still carry my awesome Chinese accent that there are people complaining about it, but hey, right? So I think part of it about, a lot of people ask me how I start dog training business. It's when I grew up, like, no, like how to get a well-behaved dogs are kind of like secret, like no one knows. People don't tell you. They hide it. If they have a well-behaved dog, they're like, yeah, and like, so I think that's been like in my head like my whole life. It's like I'd love to know how to train a dog. And I think that's really part of the, I guess, kind of almost like subconsciously in my mind, even after this many years when I finally started my dog training business. That's something like I think that's always why it's like there at the first place. Yeah.
I remember when I went to learn neuro-linguistic programming and psychology, and I remember coming home and testing it on my dog and thinking, flipping heck, like she was really responding to it. And it made me realize that actually the way we communicate with humans, the way we communicate with animals, it's just about being clear in your communication, isn't it? What are some of the things that you've really learned about training animals that you can't learn anywhere else? What are the things that you've like mastered that you just don't read in books and hear on shows?
I think part of it, a big part of my training, I always encourage my clients to trust their instincts. Like now the book always say, read this, do that, right? This happened, you do A, this happened, do B. But dog training is, again, it's not like a black and white, right? There's a lot of a gray area. A lot of my clients ask me, oh, this happened, what should I do? I always tell them, like, what do you think you should do? Then they will be like, oh, I thought they're going to do this, or they might already did it. Then they run to kind of seeking validations on if they did it
Right.
right. So I think part of big on that, because I recently had a client, what happened to her is that when she worked with me, I told her, hey, this is what you need to do. Your dog give you this look, this is how you want to react, to give some feedback. And she told me that she tried that before, and her previous trainer told her, you can never talk to your dog like that. You can never respond when your dog do that. I'm like, that's just not my approach. And I said, you never know. If you know your dog the best, and trust yourself. And hey, by all means, if you're wrong, we just fix it later, right? Like, but too scared to even take the step to try to communicate with your dog. That's, I would say, something that's like a big missing links in a lot of trainings nowadays.
Yeah. But I mean, a dog business, building a dog business, or a dog training business, I should say, is that as easy as building any other business? Like, how did you set out with building the brand of this?
Well, I think if you tell people like I'm a dog trainer, everybody like, oh my God, there's so many dog trainers out there.
Right, because you could just get stereotyped, with the $40 an hour dog trainers.
Exactly. Just like everything, there's kind of a politics going on, how you train, how you have to train, like do this, do
how
that.
much should you charge?
Yeah.
There's
everything. And I think there's no business to say it's just completely effortless, right? Even whatever type business you start. And I think on dog training business, part of it, I always joke about it. You do carry a risk that could get bitten by a dog. That is the risk always there. And I did get bit a couple times. Luckily, nothing so bad. And the other part is really what you want to focus on. I think a lot of dog trainers probably the missing link is that they really love the dog, and which is a great thing. But they think because they want to work with animals, that's why they get in the business. But the reality is, a lot of my work is with the clients, the human, right? In the business are my clients, right? So, and if you're person want to get in business because you're like, I just want to work with the animal, I don't really want to deal with people, then this is probably not a business for you. You will feel a lot of struggles. Because you might get the dog look really good, but if you can't transfer that skill to the owner, they won't experience the success. So that's, I think, it's really huge because it's their dog, not yours, and they have to able to get what you're saying. That's why a lot of my work is really try to teach the owner what to do, more or less about how to teach the dog what to do.
Well, yeah, I mean, you see quite a few. I mean, I live on a marina, and there's quite a few dogs that are around here, and so you can tell who's training their dog and who isn't training their dog from the behavior, obviously, of the dog. But it's interesting because the behavior of the pet parent is pretty similar. So it's almost like the energy of the animal is matching the energy of the human. Is that right?
I'd say right. Yeah. And especially I focus on a lot of my specialties for those shy, fearful, and reactive dogs. And sometimes even more significant how they reflect their owner's energy, because they're more sensitive and they're more observed. And then when they feel unsafe, they're acting out, right? I always say the dog's behavior really is a reflection of their mind. So in order to help their behavior, we have to help them the mind to calm down, to relax. Now, if the owner constantly feel on edge, then their dog does sense those energies. I've worked with clients that say having cancer. Actually, I had a cancer patient that's having a dog. It's really challenging, and they have extremely sensitive dog. And the owner actually shared with me that when they have bad days, their dog have bad days. So big part of the training at the time, I said that we need to work on how to separate yourself from the dog when you're having bad days, so that your dog can have his own space to recover from that, and you have your space to feel better about yourself health-wise. So that's really could be extremely significant. And to ignore that or say, oh, that doesn't matter, we just need to work with the dog, I think that's obviously just not going to be true.
Well, I mean, this isn't the first industry you've been in. Before you went into the dog training industry, you were working in a completely different industry. Tell us about what, I mean, that was quite a transition. It's not even like the two are like one another. You've gone from literally one thing to another.
Yeah, I have, when I was in China, I have a bachelor degree in economics. And then I came here to pursue a master degree in statistics. And obviously, I'm not doing anything about my degree at all. And I've done random works, like I've done retail. I actually done quite a bit of retail, a little bit. And then I actually did Forex trading for a little bit as well. And then I got in this actually, I mean, in California, Bay Area, California is a lot of startups, right? So I got in this FinTech startup I worked there for, I think, a year and a half. And from the company only have 20 employees to, I think when I left, about 50, 60 employees. So yeah, completely different work. But while I working there, I happened to have my dog. So I was spending a lot of time training my dog at the same time. Like that's, and then, so I think the time just right in a sense. Sometimes you just know I was at the point like, I think I should get a new job or something, and have to appreciate my husband. He actually the one like, I don't think you need a new job. You need to start your dog training business, see what's going on, because he can see how much passionate when I just talk about dogs, right? So I think that's it's like I mentioned, I think the dog training always there, like kind of parallel. I just too scared to pursue it because I think start your own business always like, what will happen if you don't make money? What will happen if it's not stable? What will happen if that, right? So it's like you always want to have like, let's get a stable job, you get stable income, then we'll talk about what's next. I think there are always that's going on until you finally make the leap to say, okay, that's it. We need to make this happen.
So when you made that leap, obviously your husband was a big support for you, and not everybody has that support network around them, do they, when they're starting out? What were some of the things that you believe made this brand a success very quickly?
I think there's several things. Number one, when I was training my personal dog, I got really lucky to work with an extremely successful and awesome human being as my trainer. I think that definitely have a huge impact in my training, and I consider him to be one of my greatest mentors as well.
So modeling success seemed to be your number one.
Yeah, and then after I start or have the mind like, hey, I plan to start my own training business, I want to get more hands-on. He actually introduced me to my next mentor. And I think that's like a serendipity, right? Type of thing. Like, and my mentor, I want to appreciate her. Her name is Cindy Gehring, and she's awesome. And then how we get to know each other is because that mutual friend there. Because Cindy told me I would never take you on as a mentee if not him introduce you to me.
Wow. Okay. So she's obviously operating at a certain standard as well. So you don't want just any mentor. You want the mentor that's a little bit tough to get in with.
You want the mentor that I think part of it, we were in a same group that's studying a specific technique to help the dog. I think I was really into that at the time. I think that's also part of it. We have similar methodologies or thinking on how we should help the dog or help the dog owner. I think that's huge. And then the other part I want to talk about is coaching, right? I absolutely invested in coaching programs, try to improve myself, like and this is not about dog training, right? I have dog training experience, but how you get your business to the next level, that sometimes have nothing to do with the dog, right? You have to what you need to do, how you build up confidence, how you comfortable charge, how much you charge, and what other things you need to do. Because obviously, Sammy, you're the expert on this part, right? How to help other business owner build a brand. And I think it's a huge that a lot of people feel that they have to make some money first, then invest in themselves. Say, hey, I make some money, then I'll do that. I think it's sometimes you have to probably invest in yourself a little bit first so you can make money a little faster, and then obviously go back to investing yourself. I think that probably a lot of people not feel comfortable with that. The
Sounds
other
like there's
thing,
a big lesson in there, in this false economy, isn't there? It's like when we hit Corona, for example, we just piled even more support in the Brand Builders Club. We just put more support in there, and it was amazing to see the people that said, oh no, I've got to pull back, I've got to, I can't afford to invest in that now, I've got to put everything into this, I've got to live, I've got to survive. And those people that went into that survival mode stayed in survival mode and almost were building from a place of fear, so then they haven't built anything. And then we had people that said, one this morning actually, Jennifer Louise, she said, as soon as Corona hit, I knew the first thing I needed to do was invest in the person that was going to get me through that. So she invested in Brand Builders Club, and within a month she had over 1,000 new members. She was just, thriving. And I asked her this morning, what was it that was that differentiator between you and all of those? She has a very successful hair salon in the UK, and she literally had to close her doors and start a brand new business from scratch because her business couldn't open. She couldn't open the doors. Yeah. And so, so all of her team, everyone, like it all just overnight was gone or put on hold anyway. And she just said, well, I have the mindset of, I knew that this wasn't going to be forever. And I knew that, if I could just get through like 3 or 4 months, then what was it that was going to take me through those 3 or 4 months? Because I knew that I needed to invest in me to be able to create the income that I needed. And so it's a really interesting mindset shift, isn't it? And you're clearly an investor in yourself. What would you say is, obviously you've invested a lot in mentors. What is like the number one core piece of advice that you've got from all the money that you've invested in coaching, training, mentoring? Like, what's the number one thing you would share with our watchers and listeners today?
Before I even go there, I want to point out that part of it, you asked me, not everybody have a husband or the partners or the support. That's the other reason why you invest in coaching, because there's a community of people supporting you. And that's, we really I think I heard it somewhere, business owners are loners, right? That you do it on your own a lot of times and people don't understand you.
It's a very lonely world if you don't know who to hang around with.
Yeah. And then come to advice for business owners, I'd say really just put your work out there. I think I was, sometimes we're so afraid to take the first step because we're so afraid of what could happen or didn't work out. And that fear prevent me to even do the next thing, including put myself out there to be on a podcast. I was like, and it's going to be live. Oh my gosh, it's unscripted. What I'm going to do, right? But part of it, this is just me. And it's for world to see. It's very authentic. And as you can see, I don't usually put makeup on. And sometimes I joke about it. I train dogs. The dog doesn't care if I have a beautiful face or not. I think that's stop thinking about too much of the restrictions. I think sometimes I put myself in that box, I have to do this, then I can do that. But really, that's just you make it harder for yourself to put yourself out there. So just be yourself and just take the first step. Then the world will open up. Yeah.
So out of all the lessons that you've learned on this journey, and you've been in a number of different industries, you've trialed and tested different things to find out where was your heart. You found where your heart is in business, and now you're absolutely going for it, which I love. And anything to do with animals, I love. But there must be a point in time where you've learned a really hard lesson. And this is the confession show. So this is all about a confession, something you don't talk about very often, that you would be willing to bring as a confession to the show to say, hey, look, I know that there are lessons that we need to learn, but there are some that you don't need to learn, and you don't need to learn the hard way like I did. What would your confession be for today's listeners?
Ooh, so this definitely reminds me of something that when I first started dog training, and I think it's applied to any new business owners when you first started. And then that might even more apply to female entrepreneurs, I'd say. So it's about, you might get bullied by the so-called experienced gurus in the industry. And you not even realize it. For me, I didn't even realize it till later on, because at the time I was obviously very emotional. What happened is I paid for a program, tried to learn more dog training skills with this trainer, supposedly have really good stuff, right? And then one day, and I was in this paid Facebook group, and one day I just couldn't find this group anymore. The group disappeared. If you know, Facebook means pretty much you got blacklisted. And so I reached out to admin, and no one replied my message. I reached out to another trainer who was in the group that I knew, and they like, oh, just reach out to admin. So I have no clue what's going on. Like, just no one told me what happened. And I think several days later, and this is around holiday time to like Thanksgiving, Christmas time, late night, like at 9 or 10 p.m., I got a Facebook message with a wave and said, hey, Grace. And then they basically like accused me of a crime that I didn't commit. And they basically said, so we kind of don't want to associate with you anymore, and good luck with your reputation. And that's kind of the end of the conversation. And I'm like, oh my God, just talk about it. I'm like, what just happened? And can you imagine? It's like, I always joke about, it's like your boyfriend break up with you through a text message.
Right.
And the part is that this is a professional world. This is a professional world. Right? And what could I possibly done? And not only that, like, come on, a Facebook message, you don't even have courtesy, maybe like send me an email to say that's your decision, right?
So the group was still existing, it's just you couldn't see it.
I couldn't see it. Yep. They blocked me. And they didn't even tell me that they did that to me till I was reaching out, like, hey, what's going on here? And then among that is a paid group, right? I spent money. That's how I got in there. And I was just like, wow, what just happened? And then I think at the time, obviously, a lot of emotions. I think any, not dog owner, but they really like any business owners, if you ever experience it, just calm yourself down. And it's like pretty much sleepless night at 10 p.m. at night, and they send you a message like this. And then I reached out to my lawyer actually the next day. And because I was like, this is like just kind of ridiculous. Among that, this is the person I learned from. We don't know each other. We never met. There's never have any exchange message between us prior to this point. So it's like, you don't know me, I don't even know you, and then apparently maybe some rumor about me, like what's that about?
Do you think it was actually a rumor, or do you think this is somebody who took your money and then just, maybe they were doing this to other people?
After the lawyer and everything, and the lawyer actually, I still remember this, my lawyer told me, oh, I'm so sorry I have to go through this during holidays. And later on, with the lawyer doing some discovery and stuff, obviously we're not naming anybody here. If you feel that somebody you know is a coincidence, and part of it, like, yeah, apparently it sounds like, we don't know, hypothetically, this trainer have done this to other people as well. It is a pattern. And the part of it is that is like, it's not about me. When people really mean to you, it's really not about you. And later on, I realized it's just bullying, really. The fear is really the fear.
Well, it's bullying and it's theft, isn't it, really? It's theft in several different ways. It's like they've taken your money and then they've stopped you from being able to see the group, accused you of something that you haven't done and couldn't possibly have done. So now they've still got your money. You're not getting access to it. Therefore, it's a client they don't have to serve, but they've got your money. But it's also theft of your confidence as well, because that would make you quite hesitant in investing in something else, I'm sure.
Yeah, especially this is the part I said I was new, right? The other part I always sometimes ask myself, well, will this person do that to somebody in industry for decades, 2 decades? Will this person do that if I'm a man? Right. And, so part of it, like, you definitely think about it. There's something wrong with me first. Even when I was accused with a crime, I was like, really? Did I really do that? Right. Your thought is like, I think human have naturally go to
all on the edge of our seats, Grace. What did they accuse you of doing?
It's actually, I can't go in detail, but the funny thing is, like, it's a very stereotype towards the Chinese person.
Oh dear.
And then so I was like, wow, I don't like playing a race card, especially in US right now, the Black Lives Matter.
Right.
I think they're
that's a global issue.
They're fighting that, and I think it's really that's the right thing to do. And so, but at the same time, the racism that definitely is there. You can't say it doesn't exist. And this person happened to be white. Maybe it's a coincidence. I happen to be Asian. I happen to be a Chinese, and I happen to be accused of crime that really a lot of people accuse Chinese people of. I'm like, really? And the same people actually did the same thing. They asked me to remove one of my own YouTube videos before because they don't like it. Right. And then and this is not the first strike in a sense to get me out of the group. So I was like, wow, so I always, I think every industry have people like this. I'm sure you have horrible stories.
I wish I didn't. Well. I really wish I didn't. It's one of the reasons why I consistently show up for the show, because it's so important to me that entrepreneurs learn from other people. They've already gone the hard way. What I want to do is get into where's the real lesson here. There's some things that we have to learn because that's growth. And then there are other things that we really don't have to learn. We can avoid making that commitment to something that's not going to take us further, or we know the signs, what to look out for. So at least you're going into something with your eyes wide open. Grace, what would you say is your lesson from all of that? What can our listeners take away as a lesson? What do they need to do to avoid this happening to them?
Part of it, number one, when you're really facing situations like this, when this happens, seeking legal assistance, that's for sure. And don't get in an argument with the person. That just make it worse. And also evaluate yourself, because like you mentioned, it's definitely kind of put me down in a sense, right? And I was like really sad and also mad, right? And then part of me constantly thinking, could I have done anything different? But really, I think part of it you need to know it's time to just, that's not the right people or group of people you want to associate yourself with. And it doesn't mean I'll go out to badmouth about this person. But really like, okay, now I learned my lesson. You do you, I do me. And don't get threatened by those people, because they literally emailed me, said threatening about my reputations in the industry, right? And so I'm like, really? And knowing the other thing I know myself is like, my clients love me because I deliver the results. And that's your reputation. It's you have good work. That had nothing to do with other people in the industry tells per se to talk about how they feel about you, especially the person like I don't even know. They don't know me. I don't know them. Like, yeah. So just.
So if you were, because what I really want to do is I want to underpin, like, how can we know you're getting involved in a group like that? Like, if you were going to invest in something again that was like that, what would be the top questions you would ask that would enable you to avoid getting into that situation again?
I think number one, sometimes it's hard to know, especially, I don't know other industry, but this person happened to be some unique technique and you really want to learn, and you kind of just have to get in there. But at the same time, sometimes if I look back, I'd say they do create a environment almost like a cult-like environment. They really like, just the way they talk, they will put you down. The way they are not really coaching or teaching.
Or is there a language that we're looking for? Is there a particular way that they were marketing themselves, like hypnotic language or something? Because I mean, there are a lot of people. How many of you watching or listening to this show right now have been in a room where you've maybe seen a speaker on stage, or you've watched a webinar and they're throwing all the hypnotic language at you to get you to go and buy, like, run to the back of the room, quickly click on the link in the webinar, like
I don't think they're that good yet, but I think part of it, when you ask a question or you say, this is how I do it, I'd love to hear your expert opinion, what you will hear is like, you did it wrong. You need to do how I did it. It's really like the underlying tone is like, you have to do what I do. You can't be creative, right? What do you do? I don't care if that worked for you, because this is how I teach. You need to learn from me. And then you have to give me full credit because I'm the boss, right? I'm the the coach, the teacher, I'm so special here. They're not. I think part of it. I luckily I actually wasn't involved very long before I got kicked out, so I guess that's a good thing. So I didn't, and you will start seeing there are people will be almost like being brainwashed to blindly follow this person, have nothing to do with a skill set. It's about like a personal admiration type of thing.
You know what? I mean, what today's show is really bringing out, because this is a free flow show. It can go anywhere. It can go anywhere, right? But I like, once I find it, I'm like, oh God, we've got to know about that, because I want to find out where is the difference. You know, each and every show is so different. And really what I'm surprised at, and also quite disgusted at in the industry, is this discrimination. Corinne, one of my dear friends in Calgary, Canada, says, I had a recent situation as well where I was working with someone on Fiverr, and when they found out I was female, they would not work with me. Hard to believe in this era that this happens. I mean, I'm pretty stunned. I'm absolutely stunned that this still happens, that this still goes on, you know, and I feel almost abused that this is happening, you know, in the world. And for you, like, I feel abused for you that this is happening. Corinne, I feel abused for you that that's happened to you. You know, how can we avoid this? Because it's, well, how can we stop it, not avoid it? How can we stop this from happening?
You know, this is a part I think is where the world is getting really hard, is people really can't speak up, or right, if there's a chance you really want to name these people, right, get them under the spotlight, but at the same time you just kind of couldn't do that, right? By the same time, the other reason I want to say community is so important, because if I'm in this community and somebody asks me about that person, I would totally jump in to say, hey, this is what happened. But there have to have a degree of trust. I'm not there to badmouth about a person. I don't want you to feel I'm the little like snitch in the back, right? This is where the fine line I think is really challenging. And like I mentioned, if you have a community, you can talk about this because you feel safe with the group of people. And the other thing, if you being accused or anything like that, do investment, do your due diligence, right? And take the words at the same time, really go find out if that's true, if that really happened. Because I don't know how this person heard rumor about me. Obviously, that's just, I don't know where it's even come from. That's because this person refused to even do the due diligence, which and that's the part, like, if somebody like didn't give you the chance, especially in a professional setting, like there's a little different, maybe in a personal setting, or your friend said, I heard you're a bad friend type of, this is very different. It's a professional, you're professional, I'm professional. If something like this, you want to treat it as a professional thing, right? Give the courtesy. It's on top of that, I was a paid client. Come on, really? That's how you did this.
I hear it too often, unfortunately. You know, a dear friend of mine, she's one of my ambassadors in the Brand Builders Club. We do a lot of work together, and she invested heavily, like I think it was about £20,000 in this mentor to I'm not going to go into it in too much depth, but she invested, you know, and there was supposed to be all kinds of stuff included in this, and nothing manifested. And she's invested this 20,000, and she's contacting them like, when's this going to start, and what do I need to do? And they're just not responsive, and you know, and so she says, well, I'm not going to make my next payment unless you start, you know, supporting me. This is what I'm paying for. And then they start coming to her with court letters saying, you owe us this money and everything. And I think, unfortunately, there's a lot of this that goes on in the industry. For those of you that are watching, how many of you have gone through something like this? What did you do about it? What would you advise other people who are maybe new in business, or they haven't been through this before, and maybe they haven't invested in themselves before and they're about to? What would you say to them that would give them some advice? How would you kind of give back and pay it forward to them in future to say, hey, look, this is actually some of this is happening in industry, and I really wouldn't want you to get burned by it. Here's what I would advise you do. Like, what would you say Grace, and those of you watching and listening to the show, like, like write in, tell us, what would you say to that? Because it's so important that we actually, as a community, do look out for each other. It still shocks me, the discrimination that goes on, with outsourcers, and that's something I don't even think about. And we do talk about white privilege. I am privileged, I guess, to not know that this stuff exists. And I think in the UK, we've done a lot of work here. I think that it seems to be a lot worse in other areas of the world. In the UK, there's a lot of equality going on here, and they seem to be further on. And I just feel just awful, the fact that you've gone through this, when there are really good people out there. There are good communities, and there are good people that want to do the best for their members. And it's just unfortunate that you've had this experience. And for those of you watching and listening, that you maybe have had an experience that was lesser than you deserve to have. I think there can be an underlying kind of vibe in some communities. I've certainly sensed it, where they almost like feel like your competition, and so they want to keep you where you're at. Whereas for me, I'm like, hey, I want you to outgrow me. Go out, like, use everything I know, like go and access anything I have it all. Go outgrow me. Be the best example of the work that I teach and train. But there are other people that don't like that, and they're like, and it sounds like this community that you were part of is very much like that. You do it this way. I'm not going to teach you all of it, because this is so specialized. You can only know this bit.
Yeah.
And
then you have to pay more to get to the next level, right? It's like, and then they always withheld when you ask for more advanced questions. They just ignore you, right? So I think part of it for people who maybe it's hard to avoid before you go into something like that. But again, back to trust your instincts. You probably will feel some things off. Now, retrieve as fast as you can while you can, right? And then knowing, okay, that's a lessons learned. You pay the lessons learned, right? And then move on. Don't get discouraged. I think that's also a hard part, because you do get discouraged. Like, oh my gosh, if I join the next one, will that be the same, or will that have the same problem? What will happen now? If part, even for me, it's like, oh my gosh, will they really think I have a bad reputation, right? It's so, but hey, you just have to keep going, and then that's really like, I think part of it.
Trusting. I remember my dad many years ago, because I mean, I'm an investor in people, so I invest in a lot of people, and I feel like I always go into it. I don't go into it feeling like I'm going to get abused, or what if they do this, or I go into every relationship like, okay, here's where we're going, boom, right, and we're off. And they don't always work out that way. And I remember my dad saying to me years ago, after the very first time it had happened, and I was crushed, absolutely crushed, because this was a friend, that's somebody I'd known for a long time. Actually, that seems to be a theme. I must learn from that. And I'd known him for a long time, and we started working together, and it was really, really fun. And then their life changed, and so circumstances for them changed, and then other things became more important and more of a priority. And of course, I'm there, like, still trying to grow my business, and it ended up with us falling out. And so I was sad, not only because I'd learned a hard lesson about a relationship that I really respected and trusted, but also that I'd lost this momentum. And I remember my dad saying to me, Sammy, you trust everybody. He said, please don't ever change the way you are. I love the fact that you trust everybody, but you've got to get some common sense around business if you're going to grow what you're wanting to grow, because you can't treat everybody like a friend. They're not always going into it with the same motivation that you do. And I remember a business coach saying to me, if you ever partner with anybody or ever collaborate, or you're going into a community like that, is to find out what is their vision for how they're growing it. What's their vision for you? What's their goal? What's their dream for you? Because even if you're going into a community like Brand Builders Club, for example, even though you're going in there, to me, each and every one of you, it's not just about the community. You're also an individual on a very individual business journey, going through your own stuff with your own dreams and your own goals and your own visions. So for those of you watching or listening, you know, if you are thinking of becoming a community, I would say, like, what the when you join that community, what is their vision for your growth and success specifically, so that you're not just a number and you're not part of a cult. Gosh. You know, there is some due diligence that you can do, and obviously speaking to other members first as well. I think that's another thing that you can also do. Speak to some members and find out, you know, is there anything dodgy that you've heard? Is there anything that, you know, while you've been a member, is there anything that you've heard on the grapevine that you thought, oh, I'm not quite sure about that, you know, because I want to make sure I'm joining the right community. Are there any other questions that you'd add to that, Grace?
Yeah, I think part of it is also that depends on the amount of the investment, right? Luckily for me, this is not a huge investment. And I did talk to the member. They believe they learned a lot compared on the technique side, but less commenting on the thing that they probably either haven't experienced or they might don't want to share because, hey, they don't want to share. They don't want to get kicked out of the group, right? But later on, I invested in business training with much larger amount. Then I did definitely talk to the real clients like you, and you want to go check them out, not just hear their words. We all know how fake reviews work nowadays.
Right.
Check them out, right? And then go to their website, see how their client talk about them and also I think part of it to see those people, if those are the people you want to be associated with. This maybe beyond, maybe not just about if they're great people or not, but are they the way they're running business is the way you want to run your business, because they could be doing great, but it's not for you, right? It's your business not going to grow that way. You prefer grow this way, then find somebody actually do it, can guide you to that way. I think that's also very important. Probably, I don't want people get stuck like, oh my God, they're good, so I have to do their way. You have your way, and you will find people can support you to grow your way.
I think that's brilliant advice. You are all uniquely you, and be true to that. You know, communities are there to embrace that and support you in shining that light on your expertise or on the world or on others. You know, if they're diminishing that light for their own good and their own power, then I'd get out. I would get out as quickly as soon as you realize that, is to just make that transition, you know, nicely, gracefully. Make that transition. Well, Grace, what's next for you? You've got this amazing dog training business. You know, you're in America. Like, do you deliver training online? Tell us about how we can get access to some of that incredible knowledge in your head that you didn't get a chance to share in that.
Awesome.
We'll have it.
Yeah. So right now, because of pandemic, I deliver everything online through either virtual session or online courses. And once this gets the world back to normal, obviously I do in-person training as well. And the best way to get in touch with me actually is go to my website. It's mensa-mutts.com.
Okay, let me
either way to chat.
So Mensa
M-E-N-S-A and -mutts, MUTTS.com. So you will able to download the report that I wrote, probably very against industry norms, because I wrote a report. It's called Debunking 2 Biggest Industry Norms in Dog Training. And then there's 3 things you can do to help you fear reactive dog right now, like literally today. That's some of the quick tips that you can do to really help your dog to reduce some of the anxieties right away. Yeah, awesome. I think that's really the best way to get in touch with me. Yeah. And also, once you sign up, I actually have an email series called 24 Days to a New Dog, and that will be delivered to them as well.
Fabulous. Well, I will be signing up to that for sure. I have 4 mutts that, no, they're good, actually. They're so good. But, you know, I think it's always interesting to learn about their world, isn't it? We're learning about the human world all the time. Like, how many of you have dogs that are watching or listening into the show? It's, if you've got dogs, go to mensa-mutts.com and go check that out. I think that sounds like a brilliant email series, and thank you for offering that to all of our viewers and listeners today.
Yeah, and I definitely feel there's a lot of, especially if your dog owner have tried a lot of things, still struggling with your dog, make sure to check it out, because those are type of dogs I feel as the industry as a whole really failing them.
Yeah.
That it's not a cookie cutter system. Really, you need to communicate with the dog. And yeah, I think you will find something really interesting.
Fabulous. Thank you so much, guys and girls. Please share www.mensa-mutts.com with your friends and family. If you know someone with a dog, you never know. They might want to go through this. They might not shout out to the world that they're struggling, but they might be struggling underneath.
Yep.
So let's get the message out for Grace as much as we can. Grace, thank you so much for taking the time to be with us on the show today, for sharing so vulnerably your lessons, what's happened to you, so that we can then move forward knowing that there are some things that we're looking out for on the journey. Is to still trust people, but ask questions first. As you said, do your due diligence before you go in. Is there anything you'd like to leave our viewers and listeners with today before we go?
Well, I first want to thank you for inviting me here. This is really awesome opportunity, and I'm so grateful that you're doing this like every day. Like, oh my God, guys, this is the way you grow your brand. And yeah, and for the listeners, if you have a dog, or here's the thing, you definitely know somebody has a dog. That's a given. And then they probably struggling. They just don't talk about it. And or they're like, they've been training, they might feel that's the best they can do, and then share the message, because I always tell my clients, as long as you have hope, we can work together. You never know where your dog can go. There's a unlimited potential for your dog as well.
Yeah, I love that. Working with our best friend in proper communion, making sure that we're looking after each other. I remember a friend of mine, he once said to me, a dog is just a thing in our lives, isn't it? It's just an addition to the family. It's a friend, and we get used to them, and they're there, and it's only when they're not there that then you realize what an amazing companion it was. He said, but to the dog, you are their entire world. Like, they're just another part of our world, but to the dog, you are its entire universe. And we don't take enough time to really remember that they don't have anything else but us. We have lots and lots of things and a pet,
and then we behave yearly in front of them.
Yeah.
Right. And then, because part of it, I think the challenge is also because a lot of people, like working people or business people, we're so enthusiastic when we're working, and back home we just give the shitty side to our dog.
Yeah.
And we just forgot about it, right? And our dog already like, oh my gosh, my owner has another bad day. And how we can, I'm not saying you have to like pretend you have a good day, but really there's a better way to work with your dog. So you can show your dog, hey, you're important to me, and I'm communicating with you so you can understand what's going on. So yeah.
Beautiful. Well, Grace, thank you so much, guys and girls that tuned in for today's show. Thank you for being here with us, for supporting me to shine the light on Grace and the great work that she's doing, to shine the light on you and support you in avoiding some of the things that might be coming up and moving towards important things that you can be doing to build brand and expand your business. Have a wonderful, wonderful evening. For those of you who are joining me for tomorrow's Thinkubator from all over the world, come and join me. It's going to be 9 a.m. tomorrow, 9 a.m. British summertime currently. So, oh my gosh, Corinne, if you're still watching, then that's going to be, oh my gosh, it's going to be about 2 a.m. in the morning for you. But we do have people that they turn up every single week. We do them at 9 a.m. one week, and then next week it will be at the same kind of time as this. So we can work with people from all over the world. So we tend to have Australia, Indonesia, and Malaysia and Europe on the morning calls, and then we have all over America, Canada, and Europe. It seems to be a good one for Europe. It's a good time for Europe to jump on both calls. But if you want to come and join me, mastermind with me, let's play together for an hour of brand building power. It's live on Zoom. All you got to do is show up. We have people from the States. There's one lady, Carol Vinci. She's amazing. She's in New York. She turns up even to the morning ones because she says this is like my board meeting for the entire week. It sets me up completely. We do them every week relentlessly. So if you do want to come along to the Thinkubator, let me just type it into the banner actually, so you can get your ticket, and you can also go and choose dates in the future as well. So if tomorrow doesn't work, you can pick next week or the week after. So awesome. It's just brandbuilders.club/Thinkubator. So I'll get that on the screen now for those of you that are listening in. It's www.brandbuilders.club/Thinkubator. So go and pick your time and come and join me. We're going to mastermind for an hour of brand building power. So I'll either see you tomorrow or see you next week. Amazing brand builders tune in from all over the world to mastermind, to get their questions answered. And if there's something that is holding you back, or you're just struggling with it, or maybe you've got a question about your fame name, or what should my brand colors be, or what should I give away? How much should I charge for this? How should I promote this? What's the best visibility strategy? Should I write a book? We get all kinds of questions. How do I manage my time? What can I do to be more productive? Or I'm launching my podcast. How do you think I should go about it? Or I'm thinking of doing this. What do you think? I've got this design that's been done. Give me your feedback. Do you prefer this one or this one? Literally, you can bring anything. Awesome. To the Thinkubator.
That's
the
so
Thinkubator
awesome.
is a think tank and an incubator where we birth ideas. So we brought them together. Thinkubator.
Love the name.
Thank you. So Grace, I hope to see you on a show very soon. Next week is probably better for you on your time zone. So yeah, it'll be 5:30 p.m. next week. So maybe we'll see.
I'll go check the
9:30 for you.
I have to go on like Googling. Hey, what time? London time is this time?
Well, where are you? You're in California, aren't you?
I'm in California. Yep.
Yeah, you're 8 hours behind me. So we went live at 5 tonight, which was probably 9 a.m. your time.
9 our time. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So maybe it's So it will be 9:30 a.m. your time next week.
Oh, okay. That sounds more doable.
I would say so. Awesome. There you go. You heard it here. Grace, thank you once again for joining us for today. For those of you that want to come and Thinkubate with me, sounds a bit rude actually, doesn't it, when I say it like that? But if you want to come and Thinkubate and birth ideas and really expand your brand, come along and join us. We're on that link. Take care. Have an amazing day, morning, evening, afternoon, wherever you are and whatever you're doing. I'm sending you big, big love, and I look forward to seeing you tomorrow. Same time, same place for tomorrow's show. Take care. Mwah. See you there.
Bye, guys.
Bye.